Well, hello there, everybody. A little Star Castle. Yeah, Lady of the Lake. Good stuff. That's all I gotta say. So, how are y'all on this fine day? And as I get everything there and get that there. All right, dude. All right, looking good there. All right. So, we're live, as they would say, we're in the glide path, 5 by 5. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for being a part of this fabulous journey. It is. It's kind of nuts as I get that there. See, now I'm all in there and I am now pulling out. The bus doors are closing. Well, the great thing about it is that we have this ability in the astral is that we pick up people and we got people stepping out and the bus never slowed down. Hmm. I don't know. It's like the story of the neutron that went into the bar and says, "How much for a drink?" And the bartender said, "For you, no charge." Okay, there we go, everybody. Uh, so anyway, how are y'all? Good to see you. Speaking favor over us all. Cheers. And nothing missing, nothing broken. Ah, yeah. A nice warm beverage. Good for the heart and good for the soul. Anyway, the doctor is in the house. Hello, Saul, Mr. Floyd. How are you, my friend? Gaia, how are you and Paul? Robin and Jackie, hello. Jules, what's up? Nina, hello. Millie, good to see you. And Emperor Rex, good to see you as well. Hello, Stephanie Marie. Lost in Space. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Hello, Lauren. How are you? Kim? So I'm going back and seeing Colleen. Good to see you as well, my dear. Who else? Grace, Joyce, and if I missed you, it's not on purpose. It just happened that way. Doing great. Well, good to hear that. So, wow. Great response. So this expedition is really going to happen and doing a lot of research. So I'm going to be bringing a lot of material. Um, looking at, I think as of now, there's 18, maybe 19. So 20 was where I was thinking at. But anyway, that is an overwhelming response. So that tells me that this here group, man, are we going to have an adventure? And I was thinking, as I've done more and more research on it, there's others that have they've been pioneers. We're kind of like the wagon train movement coming across, the United States. We're in up in Nebraska, you can still see in Kansas those wheel tracks from back in the day, but I digress. And they proved that the other realms exist. I find it interesting. It was up late last night, early this morning. A lot in the Islamic culture about the astral plane. And if you look at this, it's quite interesting. I wrote down here, I said, the dead do speak. And here's a question from, I'm sure some have thought about this. The dead, so how is the astral realm any more dangerous than this one? I mean, if you follow current events, folks, things are getting pretty freaky. I mean, you got people saying stuff that, wow, wow. I mean, did we not learn these lessons in a prior era? And did it not cost us, humanity, well in excess of nearly a 500 million lives? And you've got, I don't know if these people are actually human, I guess, or I don't know if they just don't have a soul or they just have a total different perspective on reality. I can accept that. That's cool. But they've made this realm very dangerous. And if you study the different, particularly the Abrahamic, and if you even go back into the Hindu culture, um, something is really afoot. I was taught in my Christianity, and I wanted to make it short this time because I got a lot to go over, that we weren't supposed to communicate with the dead. You weren't supposed to attempt to talk with the dead. Um, the problem is they mix two different cultures. They mix a Hebraic belief system, trying to reinvent it in um, more modern context. I can make a comment here, but I'm not going to go move right along. So the realm of the dead do exist. The dead do talk. They sell us things all the time. If you listen to, many of the pioneers of rock and roll, if you listen to their recordings, their voices from the dead. And I have no doubt that they're very hip and aware to it. Um, in in the Hebrew culture, death is Guyana, Shiloh, and it's apparently a very gray place. You know, um, the problem is in the Jewish faith, they don't believe in a resurrection like the Christians do. So it gets anyway. So this realm does exist, the astral plane, and you have visited it. Every night you visit it. We all do. Each and every one of us, unless you're, stimulated with a stimulant that won't allow you to dream, but these bodies and this inner spirit or soul, however you want to define it, is controlling the ship. You will become psychotic if we don't have dreams. So we visit it. It's the astral plane. And I want to get right into, I put this kind of this presentation together. So, because I think it'll help lay out where we're going with this. So let me go over here. Um, Expedition Astral Plane. It's kind of fun when you think about it. I mean, there are expeditions launching all the time, far off exotic lands, deep sea research, and some of it is pioneering. I believe we're going to be a part of this eventuality of this group. And those who have gone ahead and left us some signpost, they believe as well is that there, and it may be the day is here, that groups of people will begin to traverse to the astral plane in a much more conscious way. And that there will be, in fact, communication, connection made. So let's get into this. So here is one that shows the astral plane in a number of different perspectives. You have the wild space, you have the astral dominion. I think that's where the gods may exist. Is when I get this put together, folks, and I'll be responding out, we just need to determine what is a good day. And I'm thinking Saturday or Sunday. Someone said they can only do Sunday. But let me know if that, because we'll probably kick this in this week if we can all agree on a time. And for those of you who can't make it, we will record it and make sure you get to see it. The Doom Space. I mean, that looks a lot like the Milky Way, doesn't it? Our universe. Again, you see in these realms, the astral dominion. And this is, I think, a pretty cool concept. We're going to look at some others. Here is a much more detailed. Now, It's interesting where the advancement of the role-playing games, and if you look at the history of Dungeons and Dragons, it was truly revolutionary in the aspect is that the players, the early ones were in person, but as it expanded and got consumed by the internet and became part of the internet just amped it up, baby, to where now you can put the virtual reality goggles on and you are there. That is a form of astral projecting. And we still don't know what it does to the person's mind, but anyway. And so when we talk about the astral plane, it's a creative substance. It's so vast, I don't think any of us can even begin to fathom how vast it is. And there's no doubt that if such detailed, and if you have individuals, and this is why I believe this expedition is going to work, because I've been examining and researching what happens to participants on online gaming. It's addictive. It becomes more real than what is supposed to be reality. So if you look at this from an occultist perspective, you have to say, well, okay, there has to be then this some spiritual aspect that's connected to this. I mean, it's just not the mind. So here is another perspective of the astral plane. This is, I think this is actually got this from the drawing. I think it was the Quran. Islam has a lot to teach on this astral plane, and it's not what Christians have been taught. Um, Here is it's depicted as the Great Wheel. And as you can see, signs, I think those are the signs of the zodiac. And again, you see this realm to the south, the negative plane, and you can see how the material plane by its surroundings and how it really is the elementals. We are, and I suspect our spirits are probably made of the same essence of the elementals. I mean, air, water, fire, earth. In fact, I spoke yesterday morning when I woke to the elementals, asking them to send rain to this area that we live in, where it's beginning to get pretty dry. So, and again, studying this, in which when we get together, expedition members, we'll be going over this. We'll have discussions on this. And, it's just all in preparation. If we were doing an expedition to the South Pole, it takes you months. Some of them are years to fully prepare for that expedition. It's going to be fun. Here's another perspective. The earth, the spirit of worlds, lower, the celestial plane, the cosmic planes. And I think that this is one we'll be discussing as well, because if you look at here, the lowest astral planes, I contend, and as I have looked into this, there are many of us who I believe are actually in this earth or physical plane, and we have this ability to kind of have feet in both uh, dimensions at the same time. These other states is which we will be doing. You know, just to let y'all know how this is going to be, we're actually going to have some scouts that will be going ahead of the rest of us, and they're going to be able to come back and say, well, this is what we see, and understanding that the astral plane is ever changing, ever coalescing. Um, Again, physical world, lower, middle, higher, mental, Buddhic, and I think that's atomic is what they were saying on that. It really comes down to the scales of consciousness. As I wrote in, as you're going to see, um, if you're in a certain state of mind, then this really is not, and you'll see here in a second, advisable. Fortunately, all of us we're a-okay with it. We know where we are. Many masters on different levels here as well. I love this one, the representation of an atom. And isn't it maybe exactly just that? And if you get together virtually and begin to have a focal point, it makes the opening, very easy. Another one. This is the plains of Lesternia. Again, the elementals coming in here in the astral planes, as you can see. And this is kind of interesting as well, where it's like we're building a map here. So no doubt that we as a group will, I have no doubt, experience probably the elementals themselves. Um, I actually believe they they're already aware of what we're doing. I got this and I thought this was interesting. It says the halls of Amanti, abode of the supreme truth, knowledge and wisdom, the astral plane. The plane of existence, one level higher than the physical plane, home to your astral body and all other astral entities. The astral plane may also be correctly called the fourth dimension because it exists on the fourth dimension of time and space. I've thought about this, and to me, I'm beginning to, and this is just what I'm seeing, dreams are the fourth dimension. I mean, if there's any proof of a dimension, we know the math says there is, but I begin to think about this. I did an experiment last night. I thought of one specific thing as I was drifting off into the next dimension, the astral dimension, and my dreams were about that one item. So that tells me that for myself, there is this rise in control. I'm very much aware now that I have this ability that I can send from my conscious mind into my subconscious mind and vice versa, and allow that fourth dimension to begin to create. And if it's, I'm the creator of this, as you are yours. So to me, that would be a good description of the fourth dimension. Again, the ancients, they didn't have a problem with this. We've covered this in the last, 10 plus years now. It's what the shaman did. It's what the holy men and women did of this time. And they would use substances to get them into that state. And this was not to be looked at as fear. It was a journey. We would call it their own expeditions. And it's written repeatedly through virtually almost every culture. I think that they would marvel today, in which I'm sure they're looking in on the scene and asking themselves, well, why aren't they using this thing they invented, this internet? The most powerful thing that exists, I believe, on this plane, and dare say it may have a good, position of top ranking on the other planes, particularly in the astral realm. Hollywood has done a good job with religion in perverting what, communicating with the dead is. Religion has also done a great deal to spoil the goodies as well. More representation, connecting to the elementals. And folks, when we get together, it's going to be something I think we need to discuss is that, is it, before we start out, do we give respect to the elementals? I mean, in some perspectives, they are the gatekeepers. And it never hurts to have their favor, right? Again, more. This one controlled by the zodiac, which I know a lot of you have told me that, yeah, it's connected. So here we are again in a wonderful place that is filled with worlds, different levels of beings, of consciousness. It's a coalescence of elements that we don't even quite understand. I mean, if you've been out there, you know it coalesces so quickly. It's just it's wild. Time and space doesn't exist. So, kind of give it to the basis on this one is that what we'll be doing is opening an opening. You may call it a portal, doorway, pathway. It's a focal point in both space time, but also into the place where the mind is no longer held by the body. First, we have to establish that, and we'll get into that more. The person's soul or spirit should be versed in how to get to a place of meditated calmness. The more experienced you are, the easier it is to travel to the astral. Visuals for the group to focus upon. Um, be some buildings, landscapes, worlds. We'll figure it out. You have to actually be able to see in your mind's eye that the astral plane exists, and you just reach out with it with your mind. I mean, the Kabbalion teaches that, you know, the universe, the very first thing about reality, and they have, no matter what plane of existence, is everything is mental. Um, actually see the astral plane, must not be angry. You can't be angry, have an angry soul uh, or person, because that can be hazardous for the other members of the expedition. Injured souls should not make this journey. This is not a journey, as we discussed, and I love the conversation with the ladies. I am so favored. I mean, you get such an in-depth perspective on every person's position. That's a rarity. Love you, ladies. Um, so if there are things that you still got to work out, well, you know, we'll bring you, we'll make reports. But yeah, you must be open-minded at all times. And that's difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds. We all have biases. The challenge is maturing to the point to where you master the bias, and they come just by environment, the environment that you're raised in, as you progress in life, you know, the different groups and that you find yourself being drawn to. Um, I put like a reed, be able to bend, be flexible. You know, those of you who played the clarinet and other reed-based instruments, you know, it's quite interesting because how it's amazing how I look at this, because here I am at the age of 12, you know, learning to play a reed instrument. And we never look at it from the aspect that this is a reed that's vibrating, and it's making a frequency, and it can be manipulated and mastered. Kind of like the double reed instruments, the oboe and the bassoon. Yeah, anyway, we got to be flexible, and we'll have to be flexible as a group as well. Again, realize that those whom we will be seeking to establish connection with will manifest in many different ways. Be aware and sensitive to their presence. They are very much aware of you. I think they already know we're coming. Respect must be presented and given to those that exist in the different planes within the astral plane. It is vast and operates on different laws, but our laws have application in their plane. Again, it only takes a thought. That's how it is. My training and my past is like, because I was taught that the power of the word of the tongue, you know, I can quote you the book of James that talks about the tongue. It's an untamed fire. It both blesses and curses, and it's the power of the word. And it was drilled into us. Take no thought saying. You can have the thought, but if you are truly a wise person, they typically won't say much. So just spotlighting on that synaptic pathway, baby, and surfing on into the astral plane. Um, we have a map. This is actually a thought. Medical, they actually took it through, one of the MRI devices they have. And I thought, how freaking cool is this? Now, I do believe as we get more versed and trained in this, we'll actually have map readers that can, you know, give this. As I said before, they already know we're coming. They're fully aware of that. And of course, and of last and most important, no fear, baby. None. So, yeah. Get over here. Get out of that. There we go. So, pretty cool, eh? All right, we're not done there. So, I want to pull up this. Give me 1 second. And I found a really cool website that I thought is worthy of putting this in. This is the dreamingandthesleeping.com. And I like this because this was a really good article. I thought, the astral realms, what is the astral plane? We are not alone. And the material world is not everything that we see. We know these truths. I mean, they're truths within us. We build beliefs and thoughts upon these truths. It is just that some of people, some never get to see the outside world, that other world that belongs to things beyond things we know. This idea is recognized in various religions, esoteric, parapsychology, literature, and terminology. And it is referred to as the astral realm. Our ancestors knew. If you really think about how Homo sapiens got here, we don't know that. And it's interesting. I wonder if our predecessors, the Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, and the others, different genuses of man, I mean, did they dream? Did they possess a soul? Did they think about themselves and where they are and the limited time that we are in this plane? And is there an existence for them beyond that? I don't know. Is it Homo sapiens? What I do know is that our ancestors, who in many ways were far more advanced than we are, technology-wise, maybe not, but I'll take their wisdom over modern day wisdom. And when you think that they knew this place existed, I'm convinced that we've all been taught how to access it, but we've been taught wrongly. All religion is predicated on the astral plane. All philosophy predicated on the astral plane. And you see it in society. You see it in how people, when they come together and they form governments, and you find out that there is this hierarchy, comes from the astral plane. It says, there it is described as astral or etheric body is one of several invisible covers of the earthly human body. However, people with different powers can see the astral body or the aura of man through natural endowment or exercise. One of the things I'm grateful about my time in Christianity. And I'm glad I was over on what many in the mainstream Christianity would call a cult. You know, we were the name it and claim it, but we were also the group that got rich. But my training in the gifts of the Holy Spirit, man, I mean, it's in my chest. It's valuable. And it was teaching decades of getting past the doubts, getting past the suspicions and when you find that there is something that is in fact both intangible and tangible, and that it's you can access it. We were just accessing through a portal of on a different level. And I believe the same principle works no matter what. Um, In many cultures, there are certain individuals who attempt to achieve this state and go to the astral realms. I have a feeling there's going to be amongst in us here. And of course, the thing about it is we're all linked together. Um, we'll be getting more into that. And those who are not as experienced to those who are, I think there's going to be this equilibrium that will be very connected to all of us. In some general understanding, the astral body is related to the Earth's physical body of the so-called the bright thread or strap, through which the physical body is supplied with the necessary cosmic fluids and support the combination of physical consciousness with the mind and the so-called pure consciousness. You can look at the astral spirit, the fluid concentration of all present and earlier experiences of the physical and spiritual body, which resides in the astral world. I believe many of us, I think a lot of us are pretty advanced. Uh, the awakening and just the inundation of Gnosis is coming from so many different places, and being able to cognitively assimilate that and then use that knowledge in practical application far out. Says you have probably heard about the astral plane, but you never indeed find out what it is for real, since it is not something that you had the firsthand experiences, but someone who knows someone who had this experience in his or her lifetime. NDEs, ODEs, um, using certain herbs and other such things to not allow the mere physical effect, but be able to channel that down into the spirit, into the soul, and allow the mind to really engage. Yeah, it's what the shaman did. Um, this is the world that is made out of the finest energy vibrations. And yet again, this is the world that is as real as this material of ours for all life forms in it, and magical, full of mystery and inexplicable to all those casual visitors who bravely venture into the unexplored regions of Astral, into the pursuit of a higher sense, purpose, and deep and true understanding of the constitution of our existence. You know, my reasoning on this, and I meditate on this a lot, whether I'm awaking, meditating on it, or purposely putting myself into that theta bandwidth, that we all are going to die. These physical bodies will eventually reach their maximum. And humans, we by necessity within us believe that the memories that we have accumulated over the number of days that we are here, allowed to be here, um, we hope, trust that those memories will not be in vain. the experience will not be forgotten. And thus we create within our minds these astral planes. And I do believe that they exist. I've visited there. Many of y'all have as well. Again, if you dream, you've been there. The astral plane is not separated from our material world, but we cannot see it at all the time. And so we can doubt that that world exists. They are intertwined and tangled at all times without interfering with each other, existing together, synchronized in every atom of our being, but most of us are not aware that it's there. Again, I refer back. This is what's going to help this expedition. I mean, I come from the belief that you lay hands on a people, there's a transference of power. If you are anointed into an office or position, that has power. I believe that you can access this unseen power, whether it's called source, whether it's called Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it is a force, it's tangible, but it can't be seen, but it can certainly be accessed and used. I, for my mind, this is very logical. It's like watching someone who personality is very explosive. You know, had an employee like that. You just didn't know what would set her off. Um, but it was quite interesting as I look back now. I wish I had this knowledge as I was back then, is that, wow, that's a real evidence of an unseen force, an unseen power, and emotion is really hyped up on that unseen power. We're going to have fun with this. In fact, we can say that the astral plane could not be called a paradise or a world that is heaven. It is not a layer above our world. It is ambiguous all around us. And the reason that, for the most part, we are not aware of it, that it is organized at frequencies that are not available to our senses. We've all experienced this. If you like music, rock and roll, I can't help when I read that. I was thinking of CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Keep on Chugging. Yeah. Uh-huh. I really enjoyed Bo Diddley. I told you all this. He opened up. Anyway, I digress. Uh, we know what those frequencies will do. You know? Yeah, we do. Um, the astral plane is a place where our souls travel after death, as many claim. But in fact, this is not all of that world. Since we are sure but cannot prove that there is more to continue their evolution before the next birth. And the place from which old, experienced, evolved souls travel to the mental world that Christianity knows is paradise. I don't know, maybe paradise is where a bunch of hippies hang out, a lot of philosophers, you know. We'll see old Socrates there. You know what I'm talking about? A similar idea could be found in other religions, and as such, it recycles the idea that material life is not the only life we have, and that the soul is eternal, and that we never die, in fact. It is born many times again, and what is even more amazing is that the astral plane is the place where those souls go or remain before their comeback to the earth. I personally don't like that idea. If the astral plane exists and if the physical plane exists, in which I got pretty good experience on both sides, then there has to be other worlds other than Earth. It can't be just that limited. Wasn't that the problem with fuck the gods, is that Dionysus got bored? There's only so much pleasure you can experience. And if that's all you do is experience pleasure, eventually it's going to become a living hell. But I digress. If you look at any scripture that is connected to the idea of the astral plane, you will find similarities. It's true. So we all know that this magical even could not occur during the day. It is connected to the night, where the deepest layers of our minds are awake. Isn't that odd? When the light is out, we think we're awake, but when the light is out and it becomes night or dark, we actually become more awake. So then, wouldn't that then reason that if we're in the light, we're not technically awake? We're technically dreaming. Hmm. I love fucking philosophy. I mean, come on. Uh, um, so the astral journey and the process of reaching that plane is possible during the night. So if we come from the fact that all of us have dreams, so yes, even ordinary people sometimes fall into the astral dream. And during the exercise of the day or at any other time, the trainees begin to transfer to a kind of conscious, hear this, folks, if you're on the expedition, hear this. Um, the trainees begin to transfer to a kind of conscious dream in which their soul with the astral body can travel to any the end of the earth, micro or macro cosmos. A lot of us doing it already. I mean, I can be doing like mopping the floor, or doing the dishes, or cooking. And I'm off in some other place. I'm very much aware of what I'm doing. We all know this. And again, we talked about this last week. If you were a child always caught daydreaming, hello, welcome to the expedition. That's what we're talking about. You've had this ability all your life. They taught you to be afraid of it because here's the problem. The mainstream world, and they're listening in on this conversation because this is something they're not quite sure of. You can't give a recognition to it because then you would give legitimacy to it. But if the possibility that there is legitimacy to it, then this is a place they don't have power. They don't have control. So what if a group of earlier explorers, adventurers, got ancient knowledge and began to realize that our ancestors were making deals with these, how shall we say, astral beings, and that there was an exchange given. And what if one of those exchanges was how to rule the masses? Strange it is. Some experts like to call this type of travel and the journey where the soul is separated from the body, or to know a bit better. And this is the way your astral body detaches itself from the physical one. This is a great lesson. I mean, this is almost like a handbook. I'll leave the link in it when I repost this because it's well worth reading. Such ideas has been present in all Eastern religions. Here, the law of karma and reincarnation, parallel in other worlds, the appearance of higher and lower beings, spirits, and representations are all included in, and it is the way you can explain or at least understand the idea that is behind the astral plane or the astral travel. Very common language. I always say, would be considered the common man philosopher. Don't give me the bullshit of this esoteric thing. I want to know how it is. Just simple, right? Anyway, um, it can be willing and conscious and spontaneous during the prayers of religious humans who want to push themselves into these states. We know this. There's so many of y'all I can name you out. We know this. This is not strange to us. We just didn't understand what was really happening. Or maybe even shamans or priests of different religions. All of them, and this is the idea that many ordinary people could have to experienced astral travel. You, as the ordinary person, can do it unwillingly during illness, fever, hello, in a state of clinical death, oh yeah, to whom deep sleep, etc., as well as after taking drugs. One often experiences this and other different similar phenomenon of dream seeing and the journey of the soul. I still can't help but not think of those days back in my youth. You know, when you're seeing paisleys and you're seeing the ground undulating and there are colors and you see these beings. Hello, that's exactly what was happening. I mean, they probably have a homecoming. I mean, wouldn't surprise me on this expedition if we happen to run into a group at that, saying, "Hey, we've been waiting for you. Come on in." Yeah. In another case, when um, it said many people have reached it and others just attempt it and failed miserably. So nothing is given and mandatory. It could happen, but it does not have to. In another case, when such journey is part of the process of the spiritually very advanced persons, see persons, they can make astral journeys into the microcosmos. This means that they can spend their spirit and their astral body in objects and they can stay there and enjoy and look and also learn. The fourth dimension, right? We're not held by time, or their time is not in the same law that we have here. No physical obstacles can stop them in their journey because they know how to make it there and make the best out of the microcosmos to other galaxies. The Emerald Tablets. Yeah. These are the people who have spent a couple of minutes in clinical death, described a journey through the tunnels of light into some worlds with some strangely beautiful places, with sensations of bliss and struggles with decreased relatives and acquaintances, without the desire to return to their physical bodies, to which they are most often utterly driven by some unknown force. I think we may encounter some unknown forces. In short, this is the best description of the astral plane that we could give to you because it is based on the majority of testimonies from the people who have come back from clinical death. And again, great. I'll leave it in there. We have another one. So if the goal here is to meet entities, then technically they're not in this plane alive, so they're technically dead. And so I thought it was interesting that, as and members on the expedition will get more versed into this, because once we have discussions, then we can conform a consensus as a group. So we will be communicating with the dead. I mean, if you're praying to a saint, that saint ain't alive, you're praying to the dead. Humans do it all the time. All religions are predicated around humans giving worship to an unseen entity that ain't alive. Then that means it's dead. Uh, let's see. In the modern world, it is possible. And listen, AI now, AI. I mean, I know the what is it, Brad, or the one on Google. I mean, it will talk to the dead for you. Wow. Guess who predicted that? Well, about 6 years ago, I told you that was, and I told you it was a warning sign. That very few listened, huh? Most of y'all did. And here it is. But anyway, in the aftermath of bereavement, it is not uncommon for people to undergo an intense form of post-traumatic growth. This may even change so radically that they feel as if they've become a different person, someone with a wider sense of perspective, a new sense of purpose and meaning, in sense of connection to nature and deeper relationships. Yeah. In some of the cases, an important element of the transformation is a sense that the bereaved person was still in contact with a friend or relative they lost. For example, a woman called Leanne had a close friend who was murdered while working as a nightclub bouncer. All of a sudden, the room filled with this golden light. There was a sense of peace that was overwhelming. Then I saw Bruno in his human form. My eyes were closed, communicated with the dead is quite possibly, and there are so many theories about this phenomenon. Um, Goes on to say, she said he was standing there, surrounded by blue colors and light. He said to me, "You keep asking for me to come back. Don't ask that. This is where I'm supposed to be." Very clearly, then, it shows how these dimensions, these realms, this astral realm to the physical realm, are more intertwined than what we realize. One of the things I've thought about is that the dead, those who have crossed over, they really don't care what's happening here anymore. I mean, there may be strong attachments to loved ones. I get that. But for the vast majority, I think they're just relieved to be gone. Yeah. The simplest explanation would be that these experiences are wishful thinking, self-delusion, or hallucinations. However, some after-death communications are difficult to dismiss in this way since they involve deceased people passing on messages which were later found to be relevant or information that was later confirmed. In one study of 1,667 after-death communications by the researcher Ken Vincent, around a fifth were found to be evidential in this sense, with three different types of evidence. First, there were experiences of communicate with the dead in which the person sensed or saw, often in a dream, the death of a person and found out shortly afterwards that they had died. Oh, man, I experienced that with my aunt. Still can see it. I'm back there in Santa Clara right now. Wow. 1959, 19, no, excuse me, now 60, excuse me. Yeah. Hmm. Second, some experiences provide evidence that was later confirmed. In one example that was offered to me, a grandmother had a vivid dream in which she was having tea with other grandmothers of her grandchildren who had died recently. The other grandmother warned her that their granddaughter was in danger from her violent boyfriend. After some trepidation, she spoke to her granddaughter. She admitted that her boyfriend had made death threats to her, and she split up with him shortly afterwards. I want to get into, we'll get, so there is a number of ways, and we'll get into this later as well. Sensing a presence, hearing a voice, a touch, a fragrance. So when Lynn and I lived in Colorado, I walked down the downstairs and was in this crosswalk that led to the kitchen and etc. And I smelt a cigar smoke. Well, either one of us smoke, and we certainly don't smoke cigars, and not in the house. Well, I told her, I said, "Do you smell that?" And she was downstairs and she says, "No, what are you smelling?" I said, "I'm smelling a cigar." And she said, "My father smoked cigars." Was it him? Don't know. Partial or full appearances, a glimpse beyond, encounter in the alpha state. We'll get in that. More than a dream, out of a body experiences, and phone calls. This one on phone calls is very weird. We'll pick up on this thing tomorrow. We'll actually be able to look into different steps because I'm going to be the time. And there's one other thing I want to share before we go. So I thought this one was really interesting. It's very short too. So this is called the Psychic Rendition Introduction. Psychic rendition, definition, is the process of using some artificial technique to force a spirit into a situation it does not desire, or, in the case of a spirit too immature to make an independent choice, to force such a spirit into a situation contrary to the natural influences of karma. Psychic rendition is a spiritual crime in most cases. However, for universal law enforcement, I thought that was interesting. The intergalactic police, hey, I kind of figured, who knows? I mean, isn't that what angels are? Wouldn't you say that archangels, archdemons, they're kind of like the police in the astral realm? Yeah, we got them here. They have to exist over there. Are authorized to use psychic rendition to remove certain physically advanced criminals from the creation when their activities threaten the natural order of creation. Okay. Whoever, again, I wanted to read it because it's the idea that's expressed here. The planet Earth is a rogue planet whose leaders defy the universal laws and have consistently rejected any initiatives to reform. The IGP does not operate on Earth because of attacks upon its personnel by the malevolent leaders. The planet has been scheduled for destruction. Okay. I mean, the Adam and Eve story, right? However, in the meantime, it remains essentially a paradise for evil. Well, that's pretty messed up out there. Okay, so let's get into the example of the psychic rendition as an abuse and a crime. On a planet where most people have no conception of even the most elemental attributes of the creation, such as reincarnation or even that they are or have a soul at all, it is easy for the malevolent leaders to manipulate the ignorant. One problem, however, is that souls are not so ignorant before they are born into a body somewhere on Earth. They generally get to see and choose their future life. Since the planet is a mess, many choose not to come here, which is their right. When the quality of new bodies being produced exceeds the human souls willing to accept them, the natural system switches to minion incarnations, which means that any available soul from the animal kingdom will be assigned to that body. The resulting human, of course, tends to behave like the animal it actually is, leading to a highly disruptive and unpredictable population. Sound like today, doesn't it? Lastly, this is the one that got me. Hospitals linked to the government, such as hospitals linked to universities, where doctors with top secret clearances operate. I mean, this has got conspiracy theory written all over it. Well, what if there's a smidgen of a chance that it's true? All right, have been setting up, get this, charged Faraday cages in an attempt to force the souls from dying patients into the unborn babies of pregnant women. The scam works like this. A hospice-style ward for those expected to die is placed next to a ward for pregnant women, and both are enclosed in a Faraday cage. I mean, it's got, science fiction written all over, but then, you got to think, well, there are Faraday cages. Back in my day in working construction, I was a drywall finisher and we were doing a government contract. And we were in a facility where they read top secret maps that our satellites do. And we did, oh man, half dozen of these rooms. The rooms were used with copper metal studs. Then there was this copper mesh went through the floor, the ceilings, everything was covered from ceiling everywhere down. And then we used lead line drywall anchored to these steel backs, and we had to pound this lead in between the joints. I mean, that's how secure it. Well, that's a Faraday cage of the ultimate degree. So And when I read this, I go, huh, okay. So you've got two rooms here now. One people are dying, the other ones are bringing new life in. So they're connected by this Faraday cage, right? Um, it says that this may not at all be obvious since the cage would be built into the walls. It's true. The floor and ceiling and the wards would be separated by non-metallic walls so that there would appear to be no connection between the two. Both groups of patients, of course, as well as visitors and hospital staff, would have no clue as to what was really going on. Only the doctors and staff with top secret clearance would know. Uh, Gotta tell you, I love the writing. Now, when one of the hospice people dies, they would find, to their great surprise, that they were not really dead at all. Ain't that the truth? However, this is like a Dean Koontz with Stephen King, and I mean, I'm just going, however, they would be trapped in the Faraday cage since they led a life of total spiritual ignorance. They are now completely scared and confused. Normally, they would drift up to the astral plane where those assigned to work with the newly dead would help them. But they are captured by the Faraday cage and cannot get out. In this situation, the womb of one of the pregnant women appears to them as a safe, dark cave. When they enter, they are trapped in the new baby body and cannot escape. So they are forced into another lifetime against their will. This retention initiatives keeps souls earthbound and guarantees a supply of new, high-quality slaves for the malevolent masters. Whoa. Okay. That's all I can say about that. Uh, mm. And we're going to continue on this. Got more coming. Grace says, my husband is working on drywall at home. Well, know that feeling all too well, Grace, for sure. And Grace, yes, would love to have you a part of this. Absolutely. Hey, Christine, good to see you. So what a hour. I mean, and well, there's going to be a part two to this tomorrow because, yeah, folks, this is going to happen. This is real. And the individuals that have already emailed me, I've seen what a group. Wow. I have no doubt this is going to be one of the most exciting experiences that we'll have in this plane. And I certainly think it makes us very well versed when we do separate our souls and from our bodies, and the two go their separate ways. Ah, thank you, Billy. Thank you very much. Hey, Christine, good to see you. Whew, is it real? Deborah, I don't know. But we do know. Oh, by the way, I do. Gaia, look at this. I do went out and got this white pumpkin. I think is going to play a role. I just felt, that I needed one in my house. So I got it. So there you go. Stephanie Marie, thank you. It's an informative hour. I got another whole hour behind this one. And man, folks, when we get together, what a trip. No doubt about it. All right, everybody. Enjoy it. Use it as you want, but embrace it. That's what I just got to say. Just embrace it because it's the real deal. It's the real thing. F Kitty, right back at you, darling. See, Gaia, told you. Yeah, there we are. Well, it's actually the other way, Grace. I am honored, and the group as well. All right, everybody. Much love to you. Thank you here for hitting the like button, and thank you for sharing on this. All right, until we meet again, and we shall, in the astral plane or into this plane, we